This is Greenland, home to about 57,000 people, the vast majority of whom, over 88%, are indigenous Greenlandic Inuit. The territory became a colony of Denmark in the 1700s, then became a district in 1953. In 1979, the territory was granted Home Rule, which established Greenland's own parliament and gave it increased autonomy in some areas.
Flagene endnu røde og hvide, men som det hjemmestyrede Færøerne ventes også Grønland at få sit eget flag.
Over the last several decades, it has been slowly gaining more and more sovereignty from Denmark. Greenlanders also called for independence during their March 2025 elections.
I think it's about time that we kind of move on and see that independence is the way forward for the Greenlandic people, because we've been waiting for a long time for it.
Today, Greenland has found itself in the middle of rising tensions between Denmark and the United States.
We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it.
Greenland is today a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. It's a part of our territory, and it's not for sale.
But what's the real reason that the United States is eyeing Greenland? And what does this mean for the people who live there? Before President Donald Trump was even sworn in for his second term, he made it clear that one of his goals would be acquiring Greenland from its current owners, Denmark. When he announced his pick for ambassador to Denmark, Trump even dedicated a line in his statement about the importance of US ownership and control of Greenland. He even reportedly said this directly to Denmark's Prime Minister during a phone call in January. Interestingly, Trump isn't the first US official to be interested in acquiring the territory. Then Secretary of State William Seward floated the idea in the 19th century, around the same time the US acquired Alaska from what was then called the Russian Empire. But Trump's persistence shows that he might be the first since then who really means it. Trump actually made similar overtures during his first term. In 2019, he even tweeted this image of a Trump tower edited into a Greenlandic fishing town, along with the caption, "I promise not to do this to Greenland." Back then, he mused about offering to buy Greenland from Denmark. But this time, he's escalated. He's threatened to put massive tariffs on Denmark and hasn't ruled out using the military to take Greenland. Even if these threats don't come to pass, they're a sign of Trump's massive interest in Greenland. So why does he think the stakes are so high? Well, here's how he puts it.
We need Greenland because of national security, international security, world peace.
But here's the thing, the US has already had a military presence on Greenland for a long time. At one point during the Cold War, it had built as many as 50 military bases on the territory. One of those bases, formerly known as Thule, now known as Bidufik, is still in operation today. In fact, Denmark welcomed that US base from the start, even at the expense of Greenlanders. See, shortly after the base was built, the United States needed space for anti-aircraft missiles to defend the new installation. So what did it do? It called on Denmark to clear out the local population. The Danish government removed 100 Greenlandic Inuits from their homes, giving locals just 3 days to pack all their belongings and leave. Through this base, Denmark still grants the US tons of military rights in Greenland. Historically, the US has exercised these rights by doing things like storing nuclear missiles under the ice. And because of this relationship, one Danish military analyst has described Trump's push as knocking down a door that is open to the US. And if you're wondering why the US has its eyes on a territory all the way up here, it's helpful to shift your perspective a bit. AJ Plus spoke to Jennifer Spence, director of the Arctic Initiative at Harvard Kennedy School, about why Greenland matters so much to the US.
If you look at a map from the top of the world, you get a fundamentally sort of different view, which is you have US and Russia are actually neighbors, right? So during the Cold War, Thule Air Base was where there was a lot of investment in Greenland to have the military infrastructure for response and defense and deterrence, all that kind of thing. So militarily and security perspective, there's that sort of strategic location element of it.
Today, Trump has echoed this same logic to justify his territorial ambitions.
I'm talking about protecting the free world. You don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen.
But if this is Trump's concern, wouldn't the US military's current presence be enough of a deterrent? Here's the thing, as it stands, the US's current position in Greenland depends on a partnership not just with Denmark, but with all of Europe. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, more commonly known as NATO.
To Western Europe.
NATO is a military alliance established in 1949 at the beginning of the Cold War to unite the capitalist countries of Western Europe and North America against the Soviet Union and its allies. The United States and Denmark were both founding members of NATO, having both signed the treaty in 1949. A key part of that treaty is Article 5, which considers an attack on one member as an attack on all members. So when Trump threatens the possibility of using force against Greenland, he's not just threatening Denmark, but nearly all of the US's Western allies. That would rip up the military alliance that has upheld the US's global position since the end of World War II.
I don't think Europe's solely focused on what this means for Europe because of Greenland. They're thinking more about this from what does this mean for what we can expect from an ally and partner in terms of international relations generally. And if it might be Greenland today, but what will it be tomorrow?
Even the EU's top general has said that troops should be sent to Greenland to deter an American attempt to seize the territory. So what could possibly make the risks that Trump is taking worth it? Let's see what Trump has said about Greenland outside of its national security importance.
You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this. We need them for economic security.
So when it comes to economic security in the Arctic region, there are a few things that Trump could be talking about. The first, Arctic trade routes. See, projections show that the North Pole could be free of summer ice by 2035, and this will supposedly open up trade routes in the Arctic. But it's not as simple as melting ice. Spence says that if Arctic trade increased, those routes would need more infrastructure, like resupply points and emergency management teams that are ready to respond and support ships. Currently, these systems don't exist.
There's no infrastructure or very little infrastructure to support that kind of massive change in shipping.
But the other economic opportunity in Greenland is much more immediate.
The rocks here hold some of the world's richest deposits of rare earth minerals.
These minerals are vital for various products like wind turbines, electric car batteries, and even computers. But they're also used in military weapons like cruise missiles and smart bombs. And the climate crisis is making it easier to access Greenland's untapped rare earth minerals. One country currently dominates the rare earth mineral market: China. The country accounts for 80% of the world's mined supply of these elements. That's why both the Trump and Biden administrations have courted or expressed interest in Greenland's minerals. But guess what?
China several years ago expressed interest in rare earth minerals in Greenland. There was some overtures made.
Denmark's dangling Greenland's resources in front of China, as well as the bigger prize of access to the Arctic.
But ultimately, China was unsuccessful in getting a foothold. And frankly, part of that was the West's concern about China having access and having control over rare earth minerals in Greenland.
Now, while Greenland is home to massive amounts of untapped mineral wealth, and even thought to have massive oil and gas reserves, many Greenlanders are hesitant to embrace these extraction projects.
We, as a tourist nation, try to brand ourselves as a green and pristine place in the world. We don't want that image to be tarred by environmental hazards.
The territory's 2021 elections centered around a major uranium mining project. The party opposed to uranium mining won. Later that year, Greenland banned uranium mining, disappointing other countries hoping for exports. And while some Greenlanders are actually in favor of extraction projects, even those who want Greenland to capitalize on its resources aren't interested in becoming part of the United States.
We shouldn't be bought by anyone because Greenland is not for sale and Greenland will not be for sale, but we can have a closer collaboration on business development with the US.
Of course, some US officials disagree.
And the ambassador said, well, Greenland's not for sale. I said, that's fine.
everything's for sale. We're going to have a conversation.
Ultimately, Greenland has said, we want to partner with people. We want to be part of a healthy economy. And you don't need to own a country in order to get access to those rare earth minerals.
And so while Trump would like his base to believe that
The people are going to probably vote for independence or to come into the United States.
the reality is quite different. In fact, 85% opposed joining the United States in a recent poll. Surveys also show that when it comes to international partnerships, many Greenlanders would welcome a closer relationship with neighbouring Arctic countries like Canada and Iceland. It's also important to note here that Greenland's main political parties all support eventual independence from Denmark.
Vi vil ikke være danskere, vi vil ikke være amerikanere, vi vil selvfølgelig være grønlændere. Og selvfølgelig er det den grønlandske folk, som bestemmer deres fremtid.
And when you look at Greenland's history with Denmark, it's no surprise why. Like other colonial powers, Denmark has a history of human rights abuses against the indigenous population of Greenland that has not been fully reconciled. These abuses include the mass sterilization of indigenous women and girls, and even the removal of Inuit children from their families. Both these campaigns reportedly went on for decades.
Every night I was crying.
Helena was among 22 Inuit children chosen for a social experiment carried out by Danish authorities in 1951. The goal was to turn orphan children into members of a modern Greenland, but not all of them were orphans.
Greenland has had the ability to pursue independence since 2009, when Denmark passed a law granting the territory more political autonomy. If Greenland does decide to seek independence, it would be able to negotiate terms with the Danish government, and the final deal would need to be approved by the Danish parliament and a referendum in Greenland.
Jeg mærker et stærkt ønske hos mange grønlændere om at bevæge sig hen imod selvstændighed. Det er i mine øjne både legitimt, det er også forståeligt, og det er et ønske, som jeg har stor respekt for.
But the main thing holding Greenland back from invoking this law is its current financial and military dependence on Denmark.
I'm actually really concerned that we would become independent too soon, because I'm scared of our economy and who would be able to lift up society.
Half of Greenland's annual budget, which funds social services such as its free healthcare system, comes from Denmark's central government. Concerns over losing that funding when it becomes independent leads some in Greenland to actually welcome greater resource extraction in partnership with other countries. They think that this wealth could one day sustain their independence.
Greenland's been very clear that it's interested in, managing its resources, and that it's willing to partner in the management of its resources. So this is not a closed economy that's saying everybody stay out, this is just ours. They're more than happy to partner, but presumably, like any country, they want to do it on their own terms.
That last bit might be why Trump wants the US to own Greenland outright, so that the US, and not the people of Greenland, would have final say. Greenlanders have long sought to claim independence from Denmark, but that challenge has become even more daunting now that an even more powerful country is moving to take Denmark's place.